Hello, friends. So last episode, we did work on glide record, how to query a glide record and fit some records to that query. Also, we did replicate the same on a script. In this episode, we are going to take a look at how a before business rule works and why essentially we need a before business rule. Let's begin. So a before business rule is applicable when you want to interact with the data before submitting something to the database. You have some raw data, you want to interact with it, you want to process it, probably data normalization, or you want to enforce some values, you want to validate something, you want to prevent something, you want to set up some fields on the target table in integrations, which the integration is expecting, and number of things, right? So any sort of activity that you want to do based on the data that you have in mind as input, you can always use a before business. So what is the after business rule? After business rule is when you want to do some follow-up actions. Let's say you want to create a child record, you want to launch some audits, or you want to trigger some events, you want to trigger some notifications. So these are all follow-up activities, right? So it is in these scenarios that we go for the after business rules. So with a clear distinction between the before, which interacts with the data, and after, which is follow-up. Let's begin. Okay. So today's use case is about copying values from a parent incident to a child incident before we go for the further update. Let's take a look. Okay. So this is the business rule wherein we are copying some values. They are impact, urgency, category, and subcategory. We all know that once we get the incident's ID, the parent's ID, then we can automatically fetch those values and assign it to the new record. But here, the catch is when you are creating an incident from parent record, it is on a new record that you are fetching these values. So you don't have a parent identifier on the new record. Okay. So where does this parent identifier get stored? It is basically on the redirecting URL that the parent ID gets stored. Let's take a look. Okay, I'll copy the SysID of this particular incident. So if I can do a copy SysID, let's erase this and put it once again. And if I go to the child incidents to create a view child incident, I'm logged in as an admin right now, which is what I am able to copy the SysID. And I am also able to see this copy URL. So this copy URL is also different from the redirecting URL. Okay, we'll take a look at the redirecting URL. Also, let's copy the URL just to understand the difference. So the full copy URL is specific to this particular record, but the redirecting URL or the referring URL is having relevance to the parent record as well. So it is this parameter, sysparam referring URL, which is pointing to the incident record and says I have a SysID, which is this one. Okay. So if I copy this one and I put it here, both are identical. So what do we understand? It is the URL which holds the key. So that is my data. I said that we need to interact with the data and do some operations. Only in those cases before the system is applicable, this is my data. My data is embedded in a URL. So how do I manipulate that and make it useful for my use case? I've written a before business rule. It works on insert and update. Why update? Because somebody might pull up an existing child incident and replace parent incident on it from A to B. So even in those cases, the values which are inherited on the incident via A should be replaced with the values that are there on, isn't it? So with no filter conditions, let's straight away go to the script. So on the script, we are doing a small validation here. First, we are assigning the parent incident. Let's say in case of existing incidents, If the parent incident holds a value, then we are assigning it to the variable called as parent ID, because later we are going to do a glide record using this particular, we are going to fetch the specific parent record using this variable. Okay. So if the parent incident value exists, put it as a parent ID. It's quite simple. But what if it doesn't exist? In case of a new record, when you are clicking on child incident new button, you child relatedness new button, and in that case, it's a new record, right? So the value exists in the URL. So there is a method called as action.GlideURI, the API, and we are using the method getMap, which returns values in key value pair. So the object that it returns, we are using that particular object to get the parameter value. Okay. So this is my parameter which I want to fetch the value for. So for this particular parameter, I'm getting a string value. Okay. We're using the object from getMap. The return value is this object, and using that object, we are fetching the string value of this parameter. Hope I'm keeping it clear. Okay. So then we are extracting the whole sysparam referring URL, the entire URL, which holds the sysID as well. And we are extracting the sysID. The return value of this particular method, the JavaScript method match, is to get me two different values. One is in a format sysID equal to the 32-digit value. Okay. Those who know the match method, it returns two elements. One is the full string and one is the expected string, the extracted string. So one gives me sysID equal to the 32-digit, and the second one gives me the second element in it, in the array, gives me the 32-digit LO. So that's why I have put in the second element here. The second element of the array starts with 0. So the second element of the array, I have assigned it as the parent ID. So we have parent ID in both the cases, right? Even if it is an existing incident, we assign that existing parent incident to the parent ID. Otherwise, we are extracting and putting it as parent ID. Then we get the record. Okay, basically we are getting, we do a glide record on incident. This fetches, this parent variable fetches all the incidents. Out of those all incidents, get me the specific record. Which specific record? This parent ID record. Okay. So now I have the specific record. So I have the values from that particular parent incident. I will do a .o and I will assign it to the current incident, which is the new incident, right? The new record, which I'm currently on. And I will also throw a message here saying that only incident manager can edit the fields, category, subcategory, impact, and urgency. So this info message will get displayed. Okay. So that is the information for the user that they can edit the fields only if they have the incident manager role. Now let's take a look how this works. I'm on a new record. Let me get back to record where it doesn't have a parent incident. It doesn't have a parent incident here. So I'm logged in as an admin at the moment. Let me impersonate. So I'll impersonate to the admin. It doesn't have a incident manager role. So let's take a look how this incident will behave when a child incident is created. I will say new. So I can see that the category, subcategory, everything is not editable, but that is why the ACLs, which I will explain after this, after the business rule. Okay. What I wanted to show here is the values from the parent incident is getting derived here. There we had the category and subcategory as network and DHCP. Let's check it out. Okay. Let's check how the values are getting replaced. So the same network and DHCP is what is getting copied over here. So you can see that what has changed. Okay. category is field to network, and subcategory is set as DHCP. And it has changed from the default values. We all know that the default value is always a low and low, but it has changed from one high to high. Urgency as well as I think I should see the impacts at here, medium and high. All right. So it's also fetching the values network and DHCP. It had a different value on the category and subcat. Now, how are these fields set to read only? We'll take a look at that in the next episode, which is the ACLs. We'll see you on the next video.